Welcome to the Wyoming Women's Business Center's 2021 webinar series. Today's presentation is 10 tips for managing a seasonal business. I'm Christine Langley with the Wyoming Women's Business Center, and I'll be your speaker today. You'll notice the Zoom webinar bar on the bottom or top of your screen, whatever screen orientation you have today. And I want to call attention to the questions panel. If you have any questions during the webinar today, just use those panels to communicate with me, either the questions panel or the chat panel. I'll try to monitor each. Now, immediately following our presentation, we're going to launch a survey, and I ask you to stay on the line and complete that survey because it provides us and our funding partners with valuable information. Everybody's muted to minimize background noise today. So once again, if you have any questions or comments during the presentation, just type them into either the chat or the questions panel, and we'll cover those at the end. All right, we're going to get started with some quick information about the Wyoming Women's Business Center today, if you're not familiar with us, and then we'll dive into our topic and finish up with a Q&A at the end. This is our new 30-minute format, and so we appreciate anybody joining us today during what might be your lunch hour, I realize. This is being recorded, and it's going to be available on our YouTube channel. You can just go to youtube.com and search for Wyoming Women's Business Center. You can subscribe to our channel and check out all the other business education content that we've provided over the last several years. All right, so those of you that are new to us, the WWBC is a nonprofit organization, and our mission is to enable and empower Wyoming entrepreneurs. We have a special emphasis on women who are economically or socially disadvantaged. And we do this through 3 distinct programs. So the first is our business counseling and training program, which is always free. The second is our microloan program, and we offer loans anywhere between $500 and $50,000 for businesses that have been denied from a traditional lending source like a bank. And then our third is the Artist Development Center, and we run that in conjunction with our Works of Wyoming store in downtown Laramie. All right, so let's dive into our topic today on managing a seasonal business. Now, a couple weeks ago, I covered another topic around seasonal businesses. It was called pros and cons of operating a seasonal business. So if you were looking to start a seasonal business, that's a great webinar to review. And today we're going to talk about tips for managing one. So to a large extent, this topic is like assuming that you own a current seasonal business. So the key to doing this successfully really involves developing skills and smart practices that allows your company to remain profitable during the off season or during periodic slowdowns. Now, it's important to understand that no one can prepare for every possible contingency, like a global pandemic, right? But I want you to consider these 10 tips that I'm going to give you today for developing and sustaining a season-proof business. And so I want to start out by just launching a quick poll so that I understand kind of where you're at right now. And so I just want you to answer this question, which of these answers best describes you? Do you currently own a seasonal small business? Are you planning to open one? Or are you just interested in learning more about seasonal small businesses? So just answer that poll for me real quick, and I'll get a sense of who is joining us. All right, thank you so much. Okay, so let's dive into our tips. So if you have a seasonal business already or you're thinking about starting one, I always like to start out recommending you do some research to understand the seasonal fluctuations. And you may think you have a general understanding of how your business is affected, but really until you've done the research and you have some hard numbers to review, you don't have enough information to determine what your business plan or strategy should actually be. So the best people to talk to is other businesses in your sector. And they don't necessarily have to be in your local area, right? They just need to have similar conditions to you. So you want to ask other business owners that are in the same business as you how they're impacted by seasonality and what level of fluctuation they see in their business. You'd be really surprised how much information people will give you if you just say you need help, right? And you ask. How do they cope with their seasonality and the fluctuations? What are their ideas? So after you've exhausted other business owners, then I always recommend that you do some online research and also ask your sector's membership body or guild. Almost every industry out there has some type of association that you can sign up for or belong to. And they can also be a wealth of knowledge because often they have like a research department where they're researching that particular industry. And that's one of the main things that they give out to their members. All right, that brings us to tip number 2, which is preparation and planning skills. So once you have the information, then it's really important that you respond and plan accordingly. So you want to build what you've learned into your business model. And for example, movie theaters, they don't shut down during quiet seasons like some other seasonal businesses. But what they do is they change up their staffing numbers, right? They hire extra employees for the 2 busiest seasons that they have, which is summer and winter. And then they create budgets to reflect that increased income. Other examples of seasonal businesses that do a good job are wedding planners, photographers, caterers, right? They know that they're going to thrive in the summer months, especially here in Wyoming, and they plan and budget accordingly. A personal example, I owned an ice cream company here in Wyoming and Colorado. We operated across 2 states. We did that for 7 years. And in doing our initial research, we found out that our revenues were expected to drop by 65% during the off season, which in Wyoming is like 8 months of the year, right? So 8 months of the year, ice cream is really not on people's minds necessarily. And that fact completely changed our planning when it came to the amount of overhead that our business was going to be able to afford. And so quickly, we made some important pivots right in the beginning that helped us be able to stay profitable year round. So you've really got to understand your cycles of revenue. And it's important you don't waste time kind of hoping that it's somehow going to be different for you. And instead, do your research and really respond accordingly. All right, so if you understand your cycles, then you should do a good job of completing your cash flow projections. And that cash flow projection should really accurately assign money in your quiet months. So that way you have a realistic sense of how much money you'll have at the end of the year. Now, if just the idea of cash flow projections or cash flow management is something that sounds intimidating or confusing, then this is the point that you want to stop and ask for some help. So Wyoming has so many free resources that can help entrepreneurs. The Wyoming Women's Business Center is just one of those. If you need some one-on-one help to develop a cash flow projection or help analyze your existing cash flow, then I really encourage you to sign up as a client for free, and we can work with you on a one-on-one basis. All right. That, once you understand your cycles, now we're on to tip number 4, and that is to diversify your income. So operating a seasonal business, it often means that you have to identify other ways to earn income in the off season. And some businesses will close altogether and owners get other jobs to kind of hold them over until the season comes back around. And then others identify alternatives to their core business. So for example, like food trucks, they'll pivot to catering often during the winter months, or landscaping companies, right? They do snow removal in the wintertime. So there may be an opportunity to even sell products with your business. So you want to ask the industry experts and really evaluate what your options are and do that early and often. All right, so I just want to run another quick poll here, just talking about diversification and see what you guys think. What is your best option to diversify your income in your business? Is it selling a different service during the off season? Is it selling a product or products during the off season? Is it finding employment during the off season? Or are you of the mindset that you just want to drastically reduce your expenses during the off season, and save for that time period? So answer that question for me. Give you a couple minutes to do that, just so I have a sense of kind of where you're at in your mind. All right, great. Thank you so much. Okay, tip number 5. I mentioned before to do your research and talk to other business owners in your industry. And this tip is really about watching your competition so that you understand how they may be diversifying or pivoting and how that may impact your business. Now, there's a difference between being informed and being paranoid. Okay, and I always like to draw that specific distinction. Competition can be really healthy as long as your focus remains on your business and how to be the best at what you do. So when I say watch your competitors and be aware of changes that are happening in your market and your industry, I want you to do that, but I don't want you to get obsessed or distracted by it. All right, so that's tip number 5. Okay, now anybody operating or planning to operate a seasonal business, needs to be creative to survive. And you could say that entrepreneurship, requires creativity in and of itself, regardless of whether you're a seasonal business. But I want you to always be thinking about how you can lower your costs in the off season and maximize your profits in the high season. So I like to tell my clients, you're getting better or you're getting worse. Your business is really never staying the same. So it takes discipline and creativity and consistent effort to manage a profitable business. And this is especially true of a seasonal business. So be sure that you're taking advantage of your downtime. I want you to catch up on the other business tasks that you can't do when you're busy, like taxes or planning your next newsletter, right? You can produce your goods or you can order inventory. You can make repairs or do deferred maintenance on your facilities or your vehicles. You may have time to train your employees in the off season in sales and customer service. Or if you've laid people off in your off season, you might be working on putting together training materials for onboarding new seasonal employees when it is time to hire. This could also be an opportunity to attend your industry seminars or conferences so that you can improve your own skills and knowledge in your industry. It's a great time to do networking within your local community. So really get creative and try to use your time wisely so that you can maximize your profits. All right, tip number 7 is to work with others. Okay, let's say you're a small business in like a tourist location. It may be really difficult to attract visitors on your own, but the community as a whole may be able to create off-season demand. So, for example, some ski resorts have developed like summer downhill bicycling programs. And that brings tourists back to hotels and restaurants in their communities. You can actually help your community find ways to attract off-season visitors. And so remember that as a small business owner, you're a really important piece of the ecosystem for your local community. And it's really in everyone's best interest to support you. So get involved with your local community economic development agencies and really see how you can work together. And so in that light, I'm going to launch another poll, and I just want to hear how you're involved. So this question is, how are you involved, or how do you plan to be involved with your local community? Are you currently a Chamber of Commerce member? Are you involved with your local economic development agency? Like, let's say you live in Casper. Are you involved with CADA, the Casper Area Economic Development Agency? Do you serve on some kind of a nonprofit board? Or are you a committee member for some kind of a local nonprofit in your community? Are you a member of an association or some kind of a member for your industry? Do you do any community work, or are you a school volunteer, or some kind of other thing? Like, what types of things are you involved in? And if you're not involved in anything in your local community as a seasonal business, I really want to encourage you to do that, because it will seriously help your business and help get the word out that you want business either more so in your off season or you're gearing up for high season. All right. In the spirit of working together, let's talk about employees and really managing expectations. So it's important that your employees understand the cycles of your business and what to expect regarding hours and income. So just like you need to project cash flow, employees need to do the same, for their personal households. So once you know your seasonal fluctuations, it's important that you let your employees and your new hires know what those are. And that way you can manage expectations and encourage them to take vacation time, in the quieter months. Lots of businesses contract students who are free in the summertime, for example, to help out with their busier times. And that's really a win-win for everyone. And I also want to encourage you to really overhire at the beginning of your busiest season. Business owners often make the mistake of hiring like the exact number of staff they need for shifts. And then inevitably someone doesn't work out for whatever reason, or they find them, and then the business owner finds themselves shorthanded in the middle of their busiest time. So hiring a few extra people should really be part of your budget and your cash flow projections so that you're assured that you have staff for your busy season. It also gives you an opportunity to really identify your best workers for your best shifts. All right, number nine, really every business should develop a marketing calendar. But for seasonal businesses, the planning and the preparation, like we talked about in the beginning, it could absolutely be a make or break situation when it comes to marketing. So I always recommend, that you whip out the calendar and you look at each month because it has a different awareness or national event that you can harness for marketing purposes. There's a holiday almost, every month or every 6 weeks or sometimes every 2 weeks, during certain times of the year. So you think about January, for example, is a good month for health club memberships, for self-help books, and programs, new resolution, type services that are being sold. Whereas February is generally the slowest month of the year for retail businesses. However, it does feature Valentine's Day, and that triggers a whole bunch of seasonal business activity. So sit down with a regular calendar and try to figure out what your marketing campaigns could look like during the high season and the low season, and then figure out the cash and the resources that you need to implement that marketing plan. It's going to be part of your cash flow projection, but you should definitely have a concerted effort specifically towards marketing, especially if you're a seasonal business. All right, last but certainly not least is my recommendation to really embrace reality and manage your stress levels, because seasonal fluctuation is just one of the many stress factors of running your own business. And sometimes just acknowledging that can help. So there's lots of pros to operating a seasonal business, and it's important that you embrace those rather than trying to force a change that's unlikely to happen. And I also want to encourage you to think of ways to manage your stress during low periods. So either through some self-care or taking a well-deserved break during, some of those quiet times. And for all the ladies out there, especially any moms that are on the line with me today, I want you to remember that going to the grocery store or the bathroom by yourself is not considered self-care. Right? You need to do something more than that. And you need to carve out some time, to regroup. So, look, we all know that financial stress is like the biggest stress in business and really just in life in general. So, again, planning for the reality is key here. And if you need help with that planning and that budgeting, then I want you to reach out to us and we will work with you individually. All right, so I've got a little bit of time for questions today. If anybody wants to plug in some questions to that Q&A panel, I will take a look. And while I am waiting to hear from you on the questions panel, I'm just going to go through a couple of closing slides and some contact information so you have it from us. All right, so the Wyoming Women's Business Center were made possible through lots of partnership agencies, but our primary funding comes from the U.S. Small Business Administration, SBA, and that is matched by the Wyoming Business Council. And so we are very thankful for their support and their guidance as partners. And of course, we look forward to all of our work going forward. This is some contact information for myself. I had a business education for the Wyoming Women's Business Center. And then also Jonathan Howdyshell, he is our business counselor on staff. And he does one-on-one business counseling sessions. So if you sign up to be a client by going to our website at wyomingwomen.org and click that sign up now button, it's a simple online application that'll get submitted to our office, and within 48 hours, we'll contact you to ask you what type of resources you're looking for from us. And if it is one-on-one business counseling, then you'll be directed to Jonathan. We've got 2 additional webinars coming up before the end of this month. We'll be talking about post-pandemic marketing, 5 new rules. And then I'm going to finish up my theme of seasonality, where I'm going to be talking about how to maximize seasonality in your business and really drive those profits. So you can RSVP to those webinars on our website. You'll also find it on Facebook and Instagram, and we will make sure you have a link to our upcoming webinars. All right, looks like I was very thorough today, and I've got nothing in my questions panel, so we'll go ahead and close out. I ask you to stay on the line for just a couple minutes and complete that survey. Thank you so much for attending, and if you are going to stay with me through this seasonality series, we will see you at the end of the month. Thanks so much. Have a great week. Bye-bye.